Red alert, red alert. All hands to the battle station. This is episode 2, the USS Equinox, being recorded on July 2nd, 2015, and being released on July 3rd, 2015. Hello there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Battle Station. I'm your host, Tucker, and I am really excited to get to today's episode. So, before I do that, though, I need to make a quick correction. It was not, in fact, as I thought, Will Holsclaw that asked for the Dominion battleship. It was Lars. So, my apologies to both of you, Will and Lars. So, this week, we're going to go ahead and take a look at a ship Will actually did mention, and one of my personal favorites, the good old USS Equinox. Now, for those who do not remember the Equinox, you may be forgiven. It was a pretty early release. It was only in 2 episodes of the show. It was in Voyager. It was in 2-part Equinox parts 1 and 2. And it's been fairly unremarkable in tournament history. The only really 2 notable things about the Equinox are sort of personal trivia, really more than anything. First of all, it was the first ship ever reviewed by State of the Federation, I should say, in their very first episode. And secondly, it was in the first list I ever took to an OP. I've talked about this a couple of times on State of the Federation. That list was an unmitigated disaster. Well, okay, I still came in top 8 out of like 24, but it was really bad. I am embarrassed by that list today. Hilariously, my girlfriend at the time had a list of all of the spare things I wasn't using, which included things like the USS Enterprise D with Picard and the USS Reliant. So she did very well also. Anyway, so for those who don't know the Equinox, let's talk about what we got here. The USS Equinox is a Federation Nova class ship. It's got 20-point cost. It's unique. Obviously, it's a named ship. It has 2 attack, 2 agility, 3 hull, and 3 shields. It has 2 crew slots, 1 tech slot, 1 weapon slot. It is a 90-90 arc, meaning it has a 90 forward fire arc and a 90 rear arc. Its action bar is the fairly standard Federation scan battle station's evasive target lock. And as for its movements, it has green 1 and 2 straight and green 1 banks. It has white 3 and 4 straight, 2 and 3 banks, and 2 hard turns. It has red 3 hard turns and a 1 red backwards. So this is not a terrible maneuver dial. This is a fairly average maneuver dial. So let's discuss the strengths and the weaknesses of the ship. Oh, I should talk about its ability, obviously. The ability of the USS Equinox is action. Disable one of your active shields. During the end phase of this round, repair all of your damaged shields. Okay, so advantages of this ship. First of all, you can't beat the price. 20 points is very, very cheap, especially for Federation. Though I guess with the advent of the NX-01 and the Raven and the Sakharov, that's not quite as true as it is anymore. But in a format where we're looking at building to 50, starting with 20 gives us a lot of room to work with. And for a 20-point ship, the slots are actually pretty good. 4 slots, 1 tech, 1 weapon, and 2 crew is a nice diversity that's going to give us a lot of different options to work with, while still having enough slots that we're probably going to be able to fill most of them. Okay, weaknesses. The weaknesses in this ship are they're twofold. But first of all, its stat line. 6 durability is enough that you can get one-shotted by most competitive ships in the game at this point. Borg and Species obviously can just take you out with their 6 dice, and anybody with 5 can usually get 1 direct hit if they roll enough crits. So the durability is perhaps not what we want. Obviously, attack value 2 is very suboptimal as well. And the major disadvantage of the action, while it's cool to regenerate your shields every turn, because you're disabling one of them, you're actually only getting 2 shields back every turn, and your durability is still not that high. You're basically dropping yourself from 6 to 5 effectively, and even though 2 of them comes back, you'll never be at a durability lower than 3. I mean, the NX-01 can one-shot you with 3 durability. One other disadvantage of the otherwise really fun action is that it's an action. You're not going to be able to battle stations or target lock by default on the turn that you do this, which is not great. We really want to be able to increase quality, and this really hurts our ability to do that out of the gate. So, our goals for this ship are going to be the following. Get this ship a certain amount of quality while still being able to take its action and make its action meaningful such that the durability of the ship is significantly improved. Flipped with, let's see if we can get this thing a little bit more offensive firepower. Alright, so the first place we're going to start is by figuring out exactly how we're going to go about getting this ship a little more durability and a little more firepower. Fortunately, this is a Federation ship, which means that we actually have a very easy option for that. We have a weapon slot. We're going to throw in Type 8 phaser array off the USS hood. Adds 1 die whenever we attack with our primary weapon. And we're going to throw a systems upgrade into one of the tech slots. So systems upgrade is an upgrade that can actually be taken in any slot that adds 1 to your shields and adds a tech slot. It can only be taken on Federation ships. The reason we're putting this in a tech slot is because after the phaser array goes in the weapon slot, we only have tech crew left. I am going to put another tech on here, but I'm going to need all the crew I can get. So the tech is going to be a sweet little independent upgrade called Improved Deflector Screens, and everybody probably saw this coming from a mile away. Essentially what Improved Deflector Screens says is, as long as your shields are up, in other words, as long as you have active shields, while you're defending during the comparative results step, you can cancel a hit or crit result, which is probably going to be a crit result, let's be honest here. You discard it if all of your shields are destroyed, but this is the Equinox, so all of your shields are never going to be destroyed. Because you disable that 1 shield every turn to use the Equinox's action, that shield is invulnerable to damage. Now this upgrade can only be purchased on a ship of hull value 3 or less, but fortunately the Equinox is just such a ship. So we've got the durability. We've gone from 3 shields base to 4, meaning we're going to regenerate 3 shields every turn, and we have improved deflector screens. Effectively, this is going to stop 4 damage every single turn. Now we're cooking with gas. Past that, let's see if we can get some quality onto those 3 dice. But is there a way we can improve them further? We'll hold on to that thought for now. For now, let's just look at those 2 crew slots. We're going to use the same trick we used in the last episode with Loger, but with a slightly different crew member this time around. We're going to slot on William T. Riker and Leonard McCoy. For those who don't remember, William T. Riker adds a crew slot and takes a crew slot, so effectively he's free. And he says after you move, you may disable him to perform one of the actions on one of your crew upgrades as a free action. Leonard McCoy says, action, remove the disabled token from 2 of your crew. Okay, but we're not going to use Loger this time because obviously we're not using a secondary weapon. So what are we going to use? Enter the USS Enterprise refit Pavel Chekhov. The USS Enterprise refit Pavel Chekhov says, when attacking with your primary weapon, during the modify attack dice step of the combat phase, you may disable this card to re-roll all your blank results. You must keep the results of the second roll. Effectively what this guy says is, I'm going to go ahead and target lock you, assuming that you can convert your battle stations. Now, we're going to hold on to the battle stations thought for just a second. Just work with me on this. But when we can undisable him every turn, effectively as a free action, he's free quality. I don't see Chekhov used in a lot of builds, and I'm not really sure why. He goes very well with the disable, what does Will call it? Will Sanchez, my co-host on State of the Federation, calls them clown car builds. that stuff a bunch of crew on there that disable and then use Phlox and Beverly or Will Riker and the Doctor to re-enable them every single turn. So, this leaves our captain slot open. I'm going to put a very special captain on here that mitigates the fact that we're still only rolling 3 attack dice, and that's going to be Will Decker. Will Decker is also off the Enterprise refit. For those who don't remember, he was in the Star Trek The Motion Picture. I found him to be a fairly forgettable character, but he has a very interesting effect, which is during the modified attack dice step of the combat phase, you can destroy one of your active shields to add a critical result to your attack roll. Well, destroying an active shield is kind of a big cost on most ships, but remember, we're going to be repairing all the shields every single turn, so that sounds pretty good. And since Will Decker is skill 3, you're always going to be, unless you're fighting somebody with like skill 0 captains, you're going to feel pretty safe about taking off the shield by the time it gets to Will's turn to shoot. So far, here's what we have. The Equinox at 22 points, Will Decker, total 22, Pavel Chekhov, 25, Leonard McCoy, 27, William T. Riker, 32, Systems Upgrade, 34, Improved Deflector Screens, 39, remember it's a 4-point cost, but it gets that 1-point faction penalty, and Type 8 Phase Array for 41 points. Now obviously, this hasn't gotten us to our full 50 points yet, and the reason is I'm going to fork the build here. What does that mean? It means I'm going to give you 2 different options based on whether or not something is legal in your meta. I'm trying to work primarily with the suggested format here. However, there is one retired resource that is so incredibly good with this build that I cannot pass by mentioning it. And that is the Independent Romulan Flagship. Now, let me be very clear here. The Independent Romulan Flagship is a 10-point resource. It makes the ship independent. That's going to be important. It adds an attack, an agility, and a shield. It adds a couple of slots, a crew and a weapon. And it says, when defending all your other friendly ships within one of your flagships, you have +1 defense stat. We're not going to use that too much. But it also says, if you don't have battle stations on your action bar, you can add battle stations to your action bar. But if you do have it, you can get it as a free action. Well now, that's pretty nice. So the first thing to know about adding the flagship is this turns this ship with the systems upgrade and the aft phase cannon from a 3-2-3-4 to a 4-3-3-5, which is just amazing with this build. Now, you can use the extra crew slot, by the way, to swap out McCoy and Will Riker for Phlox and Beverly Crusher. You'll save 2 points, throw on an aft phase cannon just to get some rear arc protection in there. That all fits under 50 points if you're going the flagship route, because you are getting that extra crew and weapon slot. But that's not the most important aspect here. The most important aspect is now you're getting Chekhov to reroll your blanks. You're getting a free action battle stations every turn. You're adding a damage with Will Decker, a critical damage, I should say. And you're rolling 4 dice thanks to Type 8 Phaser Array. And you're getting 4 shields back every single turn. This is kind of really good, even putting aside the fact that you're rolling 3 defense dice on defense, which is the point where you can start to expect to get 1 evade, mathematically speaking. However, not all of us are lucky enough to still be able to use flagships. So, if you don't have a flagship, what should you do? Well, instead of that flagship resource, I'm going to tell you to put on the Independent Klingon Fleet Captain, which is 5 points, gives an elite talent slot that we're not going to use, gives +1 captain skill, which hurts us a tad, but not too much. It adds 2 crew slots, and it says you take 1 point off of the cost of every crew slot. So now, between the flagship and Will Riker, we're going to be able to fit 5 total crew on this ship, including Riker. We're going to switch out the Chekhov and McCoy for Phlox and Lenalis, By the way, when I say Phlox Beverly, that's just because they're both Federation. Lee Nollis is always better because it can protect your captain from the tender mercies of Gul Madred. So Phlox and Lee Nollis will re-enable everything every single turn with William T. Riker, which leaves us 2 crew slots to play with. One of them I'm going to spend on Mirror Universe Hikaru Sulu. I'm going to do that because Sulu says action, disable Sulu, take an action on your action bar as a free action, and then take a target lock as a free action. Well, on the action bar is battle stations, which means that using Sulu lets me get battle stations and target lock every single turn. Of course, he disables, but then again, Phlox and Lee Nollis are going to re-enable everything anyway, and Riker gives you the free action to do that with the Equinox base action anyway. Great deal all around. This leaves me with effectively a 4-point crew slot to fill. It's going to be 3 points left, but the fleet captain's going to take 1 point off of everything. I've chosen to put the Romulan tactical officer in there for even better quality, but since we don't have the flagship, we're only rolling 3 attack dice. There are quite a few options you could put in there. That one's sort of seasoned to taste, up to you. And there are just sort of a lot of options there that you can sort of pick your favorite for. One other thing I'm going to discuss with the Equinox, and I'm not, by the way, I'm not normally going to do this many builds. I just really like this ship. Is what if you don't want to use your resource on the Equinox, which is a totally fair thing, because if you're not using a flagship, this is still a pretty fragile ship. Well, basically at that point, what I'm going to advise you to do is throw on the Jean-Luc Picard 9 in place of Will Decker, and you'll have the Riker, Chekhov, and McCoy combo. That and the Equinox action will give you battle stations. You'll still have a number of points left to fill. I've put reinforced structural integrity here for even more durability in Faction Pure. But again, this is sort of a fill to taste slot. You could put in a couple of different options here, maybe a elite talent that you like, or some kind of tech upgrade, something good coming out soon that catches your fancy. But the nice thing about this particular build is that it actually is Faction Pure, and it's pretty good in Faction Pure where the ships are in general weaker. So, just to recap, our first build with flagship is the USS Equinox at 20, the Independent Romulan flagship 30, Will Decker 32, Phlox 34, Pavel Chekhov 37, Crusher 40, improved deflector screens 44, systems upgrade 46, aft phase cannon 48, and Type 8 phaser array 50. The no flagship fleet captain version is USS Equinox at 20, Fleet Captain Independent at 25, Will Decker 27, Tactical Officer 30, Phlox 31, William T. Riker 35, Lee Nollis 37, Hikaru Sulu 41, Systems Upgrade 43, Improved Deflector Screens 48, and Type 8 Phaser Array 50. And our last build of the day, the Faction Pure No Resource build, the Equinox at 20, Jean-Luc Picard 9, 26, William T. Riker 31, Pavel Chekhov 34, Leonard McCoy 36, Reinforced Structural Integrity 46.